This story is titled, My Parents Demanded $3,000 for my brother's $40,000 wedding while my siblings paid $200 each. I refused, so they disinvited me and shamed me at a family party. My parents demanded I cough up $3,000 for my brother's $40,000 wedding, while my other siblings were only asked to chip in $200 each. When I refused, I got disinvited from the wedding and publicly humiliated at my cousin's party. I'm 28, and I have 3 siblings, an older sister, Hannah, 30, my younger brother Jack, 25, and our youngest brother, Ryan, 22. Out of the 4 of us, Jack is the golden child. He just got engaged, and my parents, being as involved in our lives as ever, decided to discuss his wedding with us. At first, I thought it'd be something like setting up a guest list or offering opinions on venues. But when they sat us all down recently, their idea floored me. Instead of telling Jack and his fiancée to scale back their plans to fit their budget, my parents announced that we siblings should pitch in to help pay for it. They framed it like this: family helps family. Jack deserves the wedding of his dreams. And let me tell you, it didn't sound like a polite suggestion. It came across as an expectation, especially aimed squarely at me. They singled me out, pointing out that I have a stable job and no kids, so I could easily handle a bigger contribution. Hannah and Ryan were told to give what they could, but I could feel the weight of their plan. They wanted me to cover the bulk of it. I was stunned. At first, I honestly thought I'd misheard them. So I said, probably more bluntly than I intended, if Jack can't afford the wedding he wants, maybe he should plan one he can afford. That didn't go over well. My dad immediately accused me of being selfish and unsupportive. Your brother has always been there for you, he said. Now it's time for you to be there for him. My mom jumped in too. This is what family does for each other on special occasions. She even claimed, if it were you, we'd do the same. Which, frankly, I highly doubt considering the long-standing double standards in our family. They kept hammering me, saying, you make good money. You'll figure it out. It's just a one-time thing for your brother. I tried to explain calmly that while I do okay financially, I'm still paying off student loans, have some credit card debt, and cover all my own living expenses, rent, utilities, the whole deal. I'm not exactly rolling in extra cash here. But they brushed that off and doubled down. Since I'm in a better position than my other siblings, I should be willing to make the sacrifice. For some context, Jack has always been the favorite. At 25, he's still living at home rent-free with my parents covering most of his expenses. When he needed a car, they bought him a nearly new one. Meanwhile, I had to take out a loan for a used car and was expected to be financially independent the second I graduated college. I didn't bring any of that up in the moment, but it was boiling in the back of my mind as they kept piling on the pressure. During the conversation, Hannah mentioned she and her husband might be able to contribute a little, like maybe $200. Ryan, still in college and broke, kept his head down. It was obvious neither of them could give much, but it felt like my parents expected me to write a check big enough to make up for everyone else. I told them, as respectfully as I could, that I wasn't going to fund Jack's wedding. I said I love my brother and I'm happy for him, but it's not my responsibility to bankroll his big day. If he and his fiancée can't afford their dream wedding, they need to adjust their expectations. I also made it clear that I wasn't going to derail my own finances for the sake of one party. My mom started crying, saying she was so disappointed in me. My dad called me selfish and said, after all we've done for you. Cue the guilt trip. We ended the conversation at a standstill. They told me to think about it, and heavily implied I was letting the family down. I left their house frustrated and guilty. But in my mind, this isn't a medical emergency or any sort of necessity, it's a luxury. If you want a $40,000 wedding, you should figure out how to pay for it yourself. Jack, nobody budgets for paying thousands toward their sibling's wedding, I told him, my voice edged with disbelief. That's just not a thing. Around that time, Lena came back downstairs. She looked uncomfortable, probably because she'd overheard our argument from upstairs. She tried to gently de-escalate, saying, hey, maybe you two should cool down for a minute. I was ready to let it go right then, to walk away and give everyone time to breathe, but Jack wasn't done. He shot her a look and snapped, stay out of it. This is between me and my brother. Lena, clearly not wanting to make things worse, quietly backed out of the room. And that's when Jack dropped the bomb. You know what, he said, his voice cold. If you're not going to be there for me now, then don't bother being at the wedding at all. Just like that, he disinvited me from his wedding. For a second, I was stunned. The words hit harder than I expected. But I gathered myself quickly and said, if that's how you feel, Fine. Have your wedding without me? I grabbed my keys and walked out. My hands were trembling as I drove home, equal parts anger and heartbreak twisting in my chest. Later that night, my phone started lighting up with messages from my parents. Both of them were furious. The texts were long and emotional, full of the same accusations they'd thrown at me before. You're being selfish. Jack has always been there for you. How could you turn your back on your family like this? It was a lot. I couldn't bring myself to reply. I needed time to cool off, to process everything that had just happened. Right now, it feels like I'm only welcome at the wedding if I write a check. That stings more than I care to admit, but I'm not going to cave to this emotional blackmail. I still stand by my decision. I will not pay. I just hope that, given a little time, Jack and my parents will calm down and realize how absurd this whole situation is. But knowing them, we'll see. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my parents decided to escalate publicly. It happened at my cousin's birthday party. I showed up hoping for a chance to relax and celebrate with family, but apparently, my parents had other plans. The ambush came early. My mom cornered me in the living room, her voice loud enough for half the party to hear. "We need to talk about how you're refusing to help with Jack's wedding," she said, shooting me a pointed look. Mortified, I tried to shut it down. "Mom, not here," I murmured. "We can discuss this later." But she wasn't having it. Instead, she turned to the group of relatives nearby and declared, "Can you believe this? He's the only sibling who refuses to give a dime for his brother's wedding. Everyone else is doing their part." Heat rushed to my face. I could feel my ears burning, and my hands started trembling. The room went silent. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as people turned to watch the drama unfold. My aunt, the one hosting the party, tried to step in gently. "I'm sure he has his reasons," she said, hoping to defuse the tension. But my mom waved her off and kept going. My dad joined her, piling on. "We're just asking for a little support for a family event. Is that so much to ask?" I felt like I was being ambushed in front of an audience, and it was humiliating. But I wasn't about to let them paint me as the villain without saying my piece. Raising my voice just enough to be heard, I said, "I'm not contributing because I have my own debts and financial goals. And honestly, I don't think it's my responsibility to pay for Jack's wedding." I tried to keep my tone steady, but inside, I was seething. That's when my dad blurted out, "We only asked him for $3,000. That's it." His sister and brother already agreed to give $200 each. "We're paying a lot too. He makes good money. Why can't he just do this for Jack?" And just like that, the number was out in the open. I saw a few relatives' jaws drop. Even my aunt looked stunned. $3,000 from me, compared to $200 each from my siblings, it was glaringly unfair. It was almost vindicating to see the shocked expressions on their faces. At least now, everyone could see the imbalance. I turned to my dad and said, $3,000 isn't a small ask. I don't have that kind of money lying around, and I'm not going into debt over this. If you want to fund Jack's wedding, that's your choice, but you can't expect me to foot the bill." By then, my mom was crying. "I can't believe how selfish you're being," she said through tears. "We're family. We all make sacrifices for each other. You're breaking my heart. I never thought you'd turn on your own brother like this." Then she stormed off in tears, leaving me standing there in front of a room full of relatives, my face burning with embarrassment. My dad shook his head at me, his voice low but sharp as he muttered, "I'm so disappointed in what you've become." Then he turned and followed my mom out of the room, leaving me standing there, humiliated, with what felt like every pair of eyes in the room staring at me. If there was one upside to that awful moment, it's that having this blow up publicly finally let other family members hear my side of things. A few relatives quietly came over to me afterward, offering soft words of support. My older sister, Hannah, gave my arm a reassuring squeeze and whispered, "I'm sorry you had to deal with that. For what it's worth, I don't think you're wrong." My youngest brother murmured that he was on my side too, though I could tell he didn't want to get into it with our parents right there. Even my aunt, the one hosting the party, later pulled me aside. She said gently that what my parents did was out of line and told them directly that a wedding is a luxury, not a necessity, and it wasn't fair to demand such a large sum from me or put me on the spot like that. I left the party early, completely drained and still burning with embarrassment. On the way home, I texted my cousin, the one whose birthday we were supposed to be celebrating, to apologize for the scene. She replied almost immediately, telling me I had nothing to apologize for and that she was sorry her party had turned into a stage for family drama. Even so, I couldn't shake the guilt that her celebration had been overshadowed by all this. But by that point, Any lingering doubt I'd had about standing my ground was gone. My parents' attempt to publicly shame me didn't just cross a line, it obliterated it. It made one thing crystal clear. They were willing to go as far as it took to pressure me. That night, I wrote a long message to both of them. I told them how disappointed I was in the way they handled things. I said their attempt to humiliate me in front of our relatives didn't just hurt, it solidified my decision. I reminded them again, plainly and firmly, that I would not be paying for Jack's wedding, and that their bullying tactics weren't going to change my mind. Now that it was all out in the open, I knew I needed one final conversation to put this to rest for good. I told myself I'd sit down with my parents face to face and make it clear, I'm done discussing this, and they need to accept my answer. A few days later, I went over to my parents' house determined to get everything off my chest. From the moment I stepped into their living room, I could feel the tension. It was heavy in the air, the kind that settles in your bones. I sat down across from them and, in the calmest voice I could manage, told them, my decision stands. I'm not contributing money to Jack's wedding, not now, not later, not on the day of, not at all. I love my brother, and I want him to have a wonderful wedding, but this isn't something I'm willing or able to do. I didn't yell. I didn't let my voice shake. I just laid it out, firm and steady. Then I brought up the family party. I told them how hurtful it was that they tried to corner me in front of everyone. That was inappropriate, I said, and it only made things worse. From there, the conversation got emotional fast. My mom cried quietly while my dad sat stiffly, his face growing redder by the minute. At one point, my dad snapped, "Fine. But if you ever need help from us, don't expect it." Through tears, my mom said, "I guess we know now which one of our children really cares about family." Their words cut deep, but I held my ground. "You're the ones putting money above relationships," I told them. "If you two want to fund Jack's expensive wedding, that's your choice. But I'm not going into debt for someone else's party, and that's final." My dad didn't like that I called it a party. His jaw clenched, and his voice got louder. But I didn't back down. The conversation went in circles for a while. They tried every guilt trip they could think of, but I kept repeating the same line. "I have made my choice. You need to respect it." Finally, I told them, "This is the last time I'm talking about this. I'm done with this discussion. I hope you can come to terms with my answer because I'm not changing my mind." Then I stood up and left. As I drove home, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sad, because no one wants to be at odds with their own parents. Relieved, because for the first time in weeks, I felt like the weight of this fight wasn't crushing me anymore. The next day, my sister Hannah came over to check on me. We sat on my couch for hours, talking. She told me how sorry she was that our parents and Jack were being so stubborn. She hugged me tight and said, "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself." Those words meant more to me than I could say. Hannah thinks our parents will cool off eventually, though she admits she's not sure when. I told her how hard this whole ordeal has been for me emotionally. She knows. She's upset at our parents too, but is trying to stay out of their direct line of fire. My youngest brother has been more vocal. He recently got into a big argument with my dad, defending me. He later called me to vent and to make sure I was holding up okay. It honestly helped to know he was in my corner, and that he was even willing to stand up to Dad like that. I told him how much I appreciated it, but also asked him not to get himself in trouble on my account. He just said he couldn't sit by and watch them act like this without speaking up. Right now, my parents and Jack are giving me the silent treatment. Jack and his fiancée haven't spoken to me at all since that night. I haven't been officially told I'm uninvited from the wedding, but I'm assuming I am, and honestly, I don't plan on going anyway. This whole saga has been painful and exhausting. I'm not a confrontational person by nature, so being at odds with my own family like this has been hard. But despite everything, I feel a sense of peace now. I've drawn a boundary, and I'm sticking to it. I'm focusing on my own life again, on my work, my friends, and the relatives who are still on good terms with me. I've been putting extra energy into paying off my student loans, the same money my parents wanted me to funnel into Jack's wedding. Watching that balance go down feels good. It feels right. I stand by my decision. I know I did nothing wrong by saying no. And while I truly hope we can reconcile someday, I'm not going to apologize for sticking to my boundaries. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and hoping the dust will settle eventually.